Hey everyone, will you take advantage of the current Bitcoin price dip? Bitcoin right now is about, $82,000 and change. The answer is probably not. And the reason is that the vast majority of people in the world are not in Bitcoin buying mode. So 95% to 97% of the world will not take advantage of this Bitcoin price dip because they don't know anything about Bitcoin. They haven't even started the journey of understanding what it is. So let's just talk about the somewhere between 3% and 5% of the world population who owns any Bitcoin. Will they take advantage of the current Bitcoin price dip? And the answer is, for most of them, no. And the reason for that is that investing is all about doing the opposite of what feels comfortable. What everybody wants to do, what their instincts tell them to do, is to buy things when they're exciting and they're going up. And of course, that's typically not the best time to buy any asset, because if it's exciting and it's going up, that means you are not buying the asset on sale. It means you're buying it when everybody's buying it. But of course, the natural inclination is also then to sell the asset when it's going down. And people sell things when they're going down because it's scary and because it's going down and they're afraid it's going to go even farther down and they're feeling like they're losing money. And of course, the worst time to sell something is when it's going down, because of course, that's what everybody's doing. And it means you're selling it often at a loss. So most people buy things when they're going up and sell them when they're going down, which is how most people lose money when they try to play the stock market, because they don't have the conviction to operate opposite what their emotions are telling them to do. And in investing, your emotions are almost always telling you to do the opposite of what is smart to do. What is smart to do is find something that you deeply believe in, that you understand, and that you have deep conviction about, and then buy that thing, as much of it as you can, whenever you can buy it. And that involves buying it when it's on sale. It involves buying it when everyone else is scared. It involves buying it when everyone else is bored, because you can accumulate a lot more of it at those times, as opposed to the euphoria when everybody loves this asset and everybody's buying it together. But so first of all, I certainly hope you do take advantage of this opportunity to buy cheap Bitcoin. Some people certainly are. People have been messaging me, and good for them. Some people are buying. But for even those that don't, dips like this serve a valuable purpose. And the reason for that is that they harden you to the ups and downs. You get used to the ups and downs, which means they affect you less. So right now, I have 99%, more than 99% of my liquid assets in Bitcoin. So obviously that's, massively exposed to Bitcoin, but I did not get there all at one time. I started with, a couple of percentage points of my net worth, a very small percent. And then eventually I bought more. And then eventually I bought more. And then as my conviction grew, I bought more and more and more. And earlier, probably, in the last month or two, whenever it was that I posted on Facebook that I upped my exposure to Bitcoin from 97% to 99%. So why did I do that? Because I have seen this movie so many times of Bitcoin dipping and then rebounding and dipping and rebounding and dipping and rebounding, that eventually your conviction just gets so high that this asset always rebounds due to the fundamental value of having a sound money for the world, that your conviction gets high enough that you're willing to buy it when it's on sale. So the same was true back in 2022 when Bitcoin was spent months, literally months upon end. It was like 4 months that you could buy as much Bitcoin as you could possibly want below $20,000 per coin. And I was buying as much Bitcoin as I possibly felt comfortable buying below $20,000 per coin. Well, why was that? Well, it was because it was not my first dip. I had been through the dips in, 2018, 2019, etc., and gotten used to the fact that, the price of Bitcoin moves around a good bit and it always comes back. And so by the time 2022 rolled around, I had been quite thoroughly hardened to the ups and downs of Bitcoin, and therefore had the conviction to buy a lot of Bitcoin when it was comparatively cheap back in 2022, less than $20,000 per coin. Now, I subsequently bought even more when it went up into the 20,000s, and I bought even more when it went up into the 30,000s, and even more when it went into the 40s and 50s and 60s, all the way up. And the reason for that is obviously not only was my conviction high in the early days, or not the early days, but in the sort of the lowest prices, but as the price recovered, I became even more convinced that the price would indeed always recover. And as I saw Bitcoin weather the bank runs and ultimately bank takeovers in March of 2023, that helped build conviction. Even before that, the fact that Bitcoin bounced right back after the lows of the COVID scare that was, panicked the stock market in March of 2020, the year 2020, the bounce back from that also built conviction among me and others. So every time Bitcoin goes down and subsequently goes back up, it builds higher conviction of people who understand the fundamental value of a sound money, of something that is divisible, durable, scarce, portable, authenticatable, that has all of the attributes of a perfect money and a perfect monetary system for the world. And when you understand that value and you understand that that is valuable to humans, then you know that it's always going to keep coming back and going higher, because the adoption of Bitcoin is still tiny compared to what it one day will be. And we're still very early in that adoption process as a species of humans adopting money. And so you just know the price of Bitcoin is going to be way higher, which gives you the conviction to buy it when it's on sale. So that's why earlier in the last month or two, when the price dropped from 109,000 down below 90,000, I took my total percent of my net worth that was in Bitcoin from 97% to 99%. And again, it was because, it's not because I had taken advantage of every prior dip. It's because every dip that I hadn't taken advantage of built the resiliency and the hardening, teaching me that this asset always comes back and always eventually sets new all-time highs and always eventually outperforms other assets. Pretty much anything else, I think anything else that you could have your money in. So anyway, this dip will serve that purpose. For those with conviction who have been through enough dips before, or who have done the work to understand Bitcoin and its underlying value as part of the new monetary system of the world, for those people, they will have the conviction to buy this dip. For those that don't, who bought their very first Bitcoin on the euphoria as Bitcoin went up above 90,000 and then above 100,000 for the very first time, for those that bought their very first Bitcoin up there, they ought to be buying more Bitcoin now because the average price per Bitcoin is lower. If you buy cheap Bitcoin, the average price of the Bitcoin you own is lower. If you mix Bitcoin you bought for more and you keep buying Bitcoin for less, ultimately what matters is what is the average price you paid for Bitcoin. And that price gets lower and lower if you buy Bitcoin when it's on sale. So some people will do that, but some people who bought Bitcoin high will capitulate. They will sell. They will buy it at 108,000 per coin, and they will sell it at $82,000 per coin, and they will walk away and say, Bitcoin was not for them. And that's sad, because eventually Bitcoin will be for them, whether they want it or not. They will just come back, like the person who told me, they bought Bitcoin at $5,000 per coin and sold it at $20,000 per coin. And they felt great because they had quadrupled their money. The problem is they will now have to buy Bitcoin at some point above $80,000 per coin. So instead of being excited that they quadrupled their money, the right way to look at it is, hey, you could have made 16 times your money, but instead you only made 4 times your money. And now you're stuck readopting Bitcoin at a much higher price than what you paid originally. And everyone's eventually going to have to do that, because otherwise everybody's going to watch their savings evaporate as the government incessantly prints more money. So as people get sick of the government taking away their value, taking away their time and energy, stealing the value they have created by printing money out of thin air that a average person has to work for, as more and more people get sick of that system, they will leave that system and they will adopt Bitcoin, as hundreds of millions around the world have already done. And as they do that, the price will eventually go back up. But in the meantime, we got to wait for people to get off the train who don't know what they own and bought high and are selling low, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do, even if you're, investing the way some people like to invest. But Bitcoin is not an asset that you even buy low and sell high. It's an asset that you buy with whatever money you can and hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible, because that is how money works. So hopefully you're buying more Bitcoin right now. And if you're not, hopefully at least you're watching the price and feeling the emotions of the changes in price, so that the next dip or the next dip or the next dip or the next dip, you will be able to say, I have seen this movie before. I've seen this movie before and I know exactly what happens. And what happens is eventually the price goes back up and sets a new all-time high. And that, even if you don't have the conviction to buy more Bitcoin right now, hopefully this price dip will harden you up so that in future price dips, you will have the conviction having experienced this one. But I hope you actually buy more Bitcoin because you'll be better off in the long term. So have a great night, everyone. And I am here for anything you need. Thanks.